Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome to episode 49. I'm Angela Haas, and I'm here with my co-host Cassie Newell. And this month, it's all about reflections on our year, looking back and planning for what's to come. Today, we're speaking with Laura Goode, author of the best-selling book Pitchcraft. Laura writes about intersectional feminism, female friendship, motherhood, gender, and race and culture, TV, film, and literature. She currently serves as the Associate Director for Student Programs for the Public Humanities Initiative at Stanford University, where she teaches in the English department and Feminist, Gender, and Sexuality Studies program. Her nonfiction book, Pitchcraft, The Writer's Guide to Getting Agented, Published, and Paid, was released on September 16th, 2025 from 10 Speed Press. In the fall of 2025, her nonfiction appeared in BuzzFeed, Elle, Catapult, Glamour, InStyle, Publishers Weekly, Long Reads The Cut, on and on. It's everywhere. You should get it. I don't understand why you don't have it. And many other publications. Her nonfiction work has also received funding support from the Steinbeck Fellowship. So welcome, Laura. Ooh.
Welcome.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Can you
here.
follow me everywhere, like dropping introductions like that? That would make my life
I
complete.
actually can. I would just carry your luggage. I would be like, I'm just here.
There are some people who are intrinsically really good at introducing. I do think it's like a skill. Anyway, you impressed me, Angela. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, we want to just dive in and make the most of our time with you. But did you just wake up one day in your teenage years and was like, you know what, I'm going to do this thing? How did you get here? How did you get to Stanford?
I couldn't love more like placing the mile marker for the beginning of that location in teen years, because like it is for all of us, right?
Yeah.
I actually think I became, right? I mean, that's a question that I like to ask people in like a getting to know you context, is like, who were you in high school? You learn a lot from that question. I'm going to ask both of you that. Anyway, I do think that the journey to being a writer actually began before the teen years, because I was a library kid. I was an only child. And so like I was one of those little kids who didn't have like peers to talk to. So I started this coping mechanism very early in my life of like just making those people up, and then they can be anyone you want and you can have lots of people to talk to. So I think that's where the journey began. But now I'm thinking about my feral ass. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I said feral ass. High school self. I mean, I think our high school selves are so revealing, right? I was on the newspaper. I was in the fucking marching band. I was like doing all of the extracurricular. Oh, Angela's raising her hand. I'm calling on you, Angela. Were you in the marching band?
Oh, I was in the marching band with a flipping French horn. Okay.
Fuck it. Was it the mellophone in like when you played at marching?
Yeah, it was like holding this, and then it would hit you in the face. Anyway, I didn't mean to.
Yep.
Marching band trauma, we'll put a pin in that and come back to it.
Absolutely. My best friend was like the captain of the French horn of the French horn team. She was first chair French horn. I don't remember what it was called in the marching band context. She was great at marching. I liked the music part, but I was just hostile about the marching. And that play, I don't think I'm a hostile person in my daily adult life, but I do think liking the things I like and strongly resisting the things I don't like is a theme that has perhaps persisted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah.
So you were on student newspaper, always a writer. You just kind of always had that bug. Yeah.
I did. I really did. I think that college was the hinge point where writing traveled from being something that was totally private to something that I like shared with anybody. I think I was like a very closeted writer as like an under 18-year-old. And just, I mean, I was also like literally closeted gay. So like, again, themes are coming out. But I got to college and it was actually stepping off the musician track that really like deeply committed me to writing. And once I got to college and I knew that was what I wanted to do. So it's so funny. These stories really do go back so far because I'm just talking anecdotally about my college self. But then the story I would tell you next is like, and then I saw a contest opportunity to write a play. And then like I put on the first play of my life. And then you fast forward 10 years and the woman who I made a feature film with ended up being like one of the actors who was in that first play of my life. So the dots really do
Oh,
all
that's
connect,
amazing.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I wonder what you guys' experience has been with this, but it's been my experience that investing in brilliant creative women, like as much as possible, has
Yeah.
always been my single best career strategy, as well as just like a source of immeasurable personal joy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
And
get
I
that.
think too, we're think it's safe to say, we grew up in a time without technology, right? And
Mm.
the time
Mhm.
that I started being a writer, when I told my mother, she was like, okay. But if you're listening,
Every
you were always
parent's
very
dream.
encouraging. But
Every
it
parent's
wasn't
dream.
like, I think now is the time where like there's so much investment in creative careers where before it was like,
Mm.
well, that's probably going to be your hobby, right? You can't really make money doing that, and it was like
Right. That's what my
tattooed
mother
into your
said when I
brain.
was in
Yeah,
art school.
right. I
Okay, but that's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it wasn't like discouraged, but it was like better have a plan B, make some
Yeah.
money and get a
Yeah.
career and go right out of high
Mhm.
school and right into college and a 9 to 5 and now we can invest in creative women,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying
Mhm.
it's never happened before, but it just the times have shifted into you can make money in creative careers. And I think that alone is is much better than when we were growing up.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. It was making me think about how that message of like, well, you can't possibly make a career out of anything creative, how that message was sent both very explicitly in the like parent conversations that you were just describing. I had those too, but also very implicitly in quiet ways of like, I didn't know a single person when I was growing up who had ever published a book, let alone like made a career or a living
Right.
publishing books or making movies or doing anything like in the professional creative sense. I knew people who worked at companies, like that was just not that there's that old adage of like you can't be what you can't see. And I really didn't see people. I mean, I'm from Minnesota too. So it's not like I was growing up in like the lap of Hollywood where all of my friends had
No.
like fathers who were film producers. Like I'm not that kind of Nepo baby. So I think so much of my life has been embroiled with trying to build a path for which I have no model that
Yeah.
really brings me to the doorstep of why I wrote this book, like the hope for my book Pitchcraft was that it would make this kind of information about a creative career more accessible to anyone with a library card, even that kid in Minnesota, that's the stuff that gets me
Right.
excited.
I love that. So talk about Pitchcraft a little bit more. Like, tell our listeners, what they would get if they opened up your book, Pitchcraft. What would
Okay,
they get
so
from that?
great question. And the way I want to start answering it is really important. They will get grudges and gossip, which I think is where all great art begins, right?
I love it. I'm in the
Grudges
middle of
and
coughing and
gossip.
like
Yeah.
laughing at the same time.
So the grudge part is I got this like and speaking of like conversations with parents who are not like thrilled about a creative career, like I had to talk these poor people into helping me go to college and then get an MFA in writing. And like these good people from
Mhm.
Minnesota actually helped me do that, against every better instinct they had. So thank you,
Right.
mom and dad. But when I went through this whole 6 years of a quote unquote formal writing education, these people had the audacity not to breathe one single word about like, how do you write the email to the editor that like compels a person to give you the job that has money attached to it, right? Like,
Right.
Right.
how do you compel anybody to treat you like a professional who is paid and valued? And the further I got into my post MFA freelancing career, where I basically just had to teach myself how to write that email and like maybe ask some friends what their best advice
Mhm.
was occasionally, that just really started to piss me off. Like
I love it.
that just felt like a real hose job that someone, I mean, Columbia at the time that I went there, and it is even more expensive now, was like 40
Mhm.
grand a year for that MFA. And they did not offer like opportunities to defray that tuition with teaching or scholarships or a lot of things like that. They
Right.
were really bald faced charging us that much, charging poets that much, So once I did, it's unconscionable, and I'm not just trying to like shit on that one alma mater. Like there's a lot of schools that are using this kind of
Yeah.
model. And the number one advice I always give to my students who are considering MFAs is do not go into debt for an MFA. I certainly did myself. I know many people that have, but that's like paying 6 figures for a lottery ticket. So
Right.
anyway, I built this freelance career. I did lots of different things. I somehow taught myself how to pitch, and then I just got real incensed. I was like, someone should have taught me this. And moreover, it actually seems very teachable. Like teaching someone how to write a poem, that's very hard. That's hard to quantify. That's hard to put into a lesson plan. Teaching someone how to write that pitch email, that's something I can teach.
Yeah.
So that was the grudges part of it. And then the gossip part of it has been the fun part of like presenting this book on the road and selecting, which part I'm going to read for which crowd. But, I've been doing this for like 20 years now, like I would call the beginning of my professional writer life really that MFA program, which I did right after college.
Right.
Like that was when I started putting writing as like the forefront of my life and career and seeking work as the same.
Right.
Like, I've had some feuds. I've had some reconciliations. I've had like one little divorce. I've had some breakups. I've had some relationships with other writers. I've had some relationships with collaborators that have just like taught me a lot. I think that a lot of the experience that we derive as artists, especially the experience that might be useful to other people, is often relational, which brings me back to the female friendships again. So anyway, that's the gossip. That's the grudges. And then that's the gossip. That's what people can find in the pages of Pitchcraft and much more.
I love that.
I think as we're talking, I will probably represent the grudge against
Yes.
pitching. And Cassie will, not the gossip, but she is going for it. I am like, no, let me set it up a little bit more. There's probably going to be 2 types of listeners. Listeners who, like me, are like, there's no way I can do this. And there's no way I'll ever get picked up. I don't, and it's overcoming that mindset first. And we have Cassie, who's probably representative of other listeners, who's like, I'm so excited. I want to learn. I want to do this and I'm going to go for it. So Cassie, you go first.
So I think I'm in a little bit of a different mindset plane in my career. I've been an indie author since 2016. I've jumped into romance. I pitched a rom-com at a particular conference. And unbeknownst to me, I thought it was an agent, but now she's a publisher. And she requested a full.
Oh.
And she wanted like me to develop the entire series around it. And I was like, you know what? I am that type of personality who's very competitive and challenged. And I was like, yeah, I am. And so I did it. And so I'm in this frame of mind of I've developed my career this year as a short romance author under a pen name. And this novel, from my perspective, is just right. It's commercial. I've got one publisher looking at it and I was like, I would love to see where it could go. Now, if it doesn't go anywhere, no harm, no foul, because this girl will publish it on her own because she knows what to do. So I just feel like, let me see what's out there. And I'm not going to settle for a small boutique. I'm just not, because I can do that on my own. So I kind of have my own goals and structure set in place. And I've done a couple of different querying classes and certifications and things that I did for being a writing coach at a time. So I feel pretty comfortable around all of this stuff. However, that said, there's nothing like it in the world when a publisher or an agent is like, I want that. Like as a writer, I'm lit up. Like,
of course,
flatter me all day long, just like a reader. When they tell me like I made their day or made them smile or whatever it is. So for me, I feel like I got the time. I've got my plan for next year. I'm just going to query, see what happens, and just kind of play the long game next year. And then if it goes nowhere or flat and it's not what I really want, or it won't move me forward, then I'll do it on my own. So I just have a little bit of a different perspective versus somebody who's maybe not hybrid and it's their very first book. And they're like, I don't want to do all this stuff. I just want somebody to buy it and help me. It's a very different playing field
Yeah.
where I sit today.
I mean, what I
Yeah.
hear, that makes a lot of sense to me, because what I hear you saying is, look, I deeply understand what goes into releasing a book on my own. You know, like I know how
Yeah.
much work that is. I have experience in that kind of work. Like I've got my arms around that. So I know that at the bare minimum, I can do that for myself. So past that, any external validation that I reach for is really just icing on the cake. You know, like I've got a plan.
Yeah.
Someone could maybe make that plan better, but like either way, that's a plan. Like that's a foundation of self-knowledge and confidence that I honestly wish more people could operate from. I think that kind of confidence is a hard
Oh,
won
now
gift of
please. I'm sure
experience
it
and
looks
maturity.
very, but I'm
Oh,
sure
sure.
as soon as the publisher's like, no, this isn't right, I'm gonna be like, Angela, this sucks. You know, like I'm gonna be
I
upset
mean,
about it.
Cassie, show me
But
the human in the world who is totally
yeah,
impervious to a little bit of external validation. Like I've never met that person, you know?
yeah,
So that's why I like there's like this is like a psychology speak way to put it, but like there's a secure attachment to yourself in the way that I hear you describing this plan. You're like, I know I've got me. I know what I've got covered. If someone else
yeah,
wants to enter that frame, bonus. Awesome. Icing on the cake. But no matter what, I've got my own back. You know, even if there's moments of self-doubt or like feeling hungry for
yeah.
validation, like that is the kind of self-security that I wish all creatives could foster for themselves. I think that's really beautiful and important.
Thanks. Gosh, I feel really good
Oh,
right now.
Good.
yeah.
But what would you say to authors that it's book one
Mm-hmm.
and they're pitching? Because I know, you talk about, I think in your book, develop, because I just got it, so I don't know all the things, but developing your pitch muscles, as you call it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell somebody who's brand new, who's just
Brand
started?
new.
Yeah, and they have their book ready to go.
So this is exactly the juncture that you just presented, I think is one of the ones that I struggled at the most, because the number one thing I would recommend to that author is patience. I think even
That's tough.
if your manuscript is ready to go, you have gone through 3 of your best friends have read it, you know, you've gotten some rounds of feedback, you've done some drafts, it feels finished to you. Oftentimes that book is still going to spend a lot of time on the market, even if it hits the like best possible outcomes, 6-figure deal, huge agent, big 5
Right.
publisher.
Yeah.
Even that best possible outcome very often takes years, even for the most talented people. So I think that, how do I say this? I think that a lot of pitchcraft is built around the idea that for a long career in any kind of creative field, we need some like self-sustenance tools, which by the way, Cassie, is exactly what you were just describing about yourself. Like having the facility to release a book on your own and knowing how to do that, that's absolutely a self-sustenance tool and
Yeah.
just a vote of confidence in yourself, right? I think I have seen a lot of young writers, and I absolutely was this young writer who goes out, maybe they're querying agents for a year or 2 years, or maybe they get an agent and then that book is on submission for a year or 2 years. That's a really hard amount of time to sit with uncertainty for anybody. And again, we are humans who just like crave external
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah.
That's how we're hardwired, right? So I think that because
Yeah.
we want to believe that we have some sort of control over this process, which we cannot fundamentally control, if a book sits on that query list or it sits on submission to publishers for a year or 2 years, we panic and we're like, what are we doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I have to fix it. I have to,
Mm.
why isn't this selling? And again, I lived this. I have done this whole thing to myself. I think that one of the hardest things about a creative career is sometimes the answer isn't you're doing everything wrong and you have to completely pivot your strategy and do something entirely different. Very often the outcome is more like you're doing exactly what you should be doing and you just have to keep doing it, and you just have to be putting some patience and faith into that. Do you know how much my undergrads at fucking Stanford hate it when I tell them shit like this? I hated the people who told me shit like this. Like I didn't listen to this shit when I was 22 any more than they do. But patience and
Yeah.
faith just count for so much, especially if you're looking to have the kind of career that isn't just one book, right? Like a book is a
Right.
season. A career is a totally different thing. And it requires just the self-sustaining ability to hold the line and hold the faith that, again, I think is
Oh.
so hard and psychological and much deeper than it looks.
I love that. A book is a season. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we grapple with the book as a self-identifying thing, and it's really not.
No,
I love
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
That
Yes.
is beautiful.
Pitchcraft is my third book, and I also made a movie. And I could not have written a book that was about the sort of cumulative insights that I've drawn from those experiences without all of those different experiences. But every single one of those
Yeah.
experiences has come with a season of profound uncertainty and throwing spaghetti at the wall in the dark. And is this
Yeah.
ever going to go anywhere? And why would I be so audacious to think this is ever going to go anywhere? And I'm like, oh, I just got a promising conversation, and on and on and on. It's
Right.
cycles, it's seasons. Yeah, I'm
I
glad that
love
you
that.
brought up like over identifying with projects. We do have to separate ourselves from our work in that way, as personal as it feels.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do.
That is hard to do.
It's
I love
really
that.
hard.
Some of those phrases, like those little nuggets of wisdom you just had, are gold. And I can see your students are like, knit that on a pillow, Sally. Tell me what I'm really supposed to do.
Who has time for knitting? What?
Not
No,
Stanford students, I'll tell you that, Cassie. Yeah.
No. But it's true that
I love it.
like from my first book to now, I'm I have a little bit of impatience, but I'm patient. We know it's a
Mhm,
long game, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
But that brings me to my salty, horrible attitude about pitching, because the thing for me is, A, if I could talk to you, I can sell you my book in 4 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Because that was my background. I'm a retail salesperson, book buyer, merchandiser. That was my career and still is. But so I know all the sales cues face to face. But
Sure.
I'd taken different class on how to write a career letter, and I'm sitting there and there's so many rules. And I'm such a Gen X brat, I'm like, with a rebel yell, nonconformist. Like,
I was a latchkey kid starting at age 4. You're going to tell me what to do? Yeah.
Hello.
I know.
Grunt forever.
I
We
love
don't
it.
follow rules, So, but when I'm
I love
like,
it.
there's so many rules, and I started to write my letter. I'm like, this isn't me. This doesn't sound like
That's
me, but I have to make it sound a certain way. And the first sentence has to be exactly this. And this has to hook
mhm.
you, but it has to follow the rules, but break the rules. And then finally, I was just like pushing my computer back, like,
Yeah.
because I can't be myself, I feel like, in a query
Yeah.
letter. If I was really myself, I probably wouldn't follow any of these standard rules. But then I'm like pitching to someone who's this faceless inbox, and I'm like, well, I mean, now there is more research. You do research on some of your agents
Of
and things like that. But I
course.
still don't know him or her
Yeah.
or them or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's where I just was like, I'm not even going to try, because I feel like for me, and there might be listeners out here feeling the same way, I've waited so long for this career. I don't want to wait to put my books out. I'm publishing my 4th book. I have 2 audiobooks, have this podcast. I want to go. I want to do
Mhm.
Yeah.
this. And especially while my brain still has some squish to it, I want to get these books out,
I hear
And
I
you.
love it.
do I
Has
languish
squish.
and wait? And then there's no guarantees. And someone may say you need to change this character or this cover, but there still is value into trying this process. So I'm going to get to my point here in a second, but when I taught public speaking at the local university here, my favorite students were the ones that hated public speaking. The ones who were fine
Mm.
with it and liked it were easy. It was the one, like, if you were petrified and scared, I wanted you, because I wanted to get to the bottom of like why this is so hard and scary. If we don't really tackle
Mm.
that fear, you can't give a
Yes.
speech. It doesn't make
Yeah.
Yes.
sense to just dive into speech 1. Let's talk about why this is so scary. Rip that Band-Aid off, get in there and like pour lemon juice on it and figure it out. So when there's someone like me who is got this attitude problem against pitching and the whole process, how do you how can you reframe my mindset? to show the value,
Mm.
to show that there is something to this.
I love the way you were describing the student that you love the most as the person being the person who is really, really afraid of public speaking. I am a teacher who's like that too. And part of the reason I gravitate towards that student is because if you are scared of this, that means I know you care about this. Like you
Right.
wouldn't be scared of something that you didn't give a shit about that intrinsically did not matter to you. So, like you,
Yeah.
Angela, that magnetizes my curiosity of like, what about this is so important to you that it scares you? Like, that's interesting. Let's dig in there. So I
Yeah.
think I would say the same thing about pitching. You wouldn't be annoyed, incensed, or conflicted about something that meant nothing to you, right? Like those
Mhm.
are already emotional
Yeah.
attachments that reveal that you have an investment in this, as you well fucking should. This is your life and platform and career. Like this, like we said before, your work is not yourself. It is distinct from yourself, but certainly it is very personal to you and like of you.
Right.
I think that I love the way I've heard both of you just process this thus far. Like every author gets to make her own decision about like what path her work should travel to meet the public. And there's not just one legitimate path for that work to travel to meet the public. We have lots of choices and we should use them. But I think that one way in which I do come back to being like a little bit old school is I'm so happy when things become more accessible. I always want to widen pipelines. And then there is also this truth at the end of the day that writing is really fucking hard and writing books is really
Mhm.
fucking hard. And if it were easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
So because I want to read quality books and you want to read quality books, there does need to be at some point some sort of intervening quality control, right? And I
Mhm.
do think the market is imperfect. I think agents and publishers are imperfect. I think capitalism is for the fucking birds. But I do think that they provide valuable sources of feedback and quality control. So
Right.
I would
Mm.
not, if I were to take it to your specific example, like Angela, if you were asking me this in my pitching and publishing class, I would say something like self-publishing is great, especially if you have a friend like Cassie who sure knows a lot about it and is probably going to help you put together a really sophisticated, like multi-level plan for that. Great, do that. But before you commit to that, would you like to just see what 5 agents say? Just so you can see if you get any feedback, if you get any sort
Right.
of like comment on how marketable your work may or may not be. Like that could be valuable to any course of action, right? So again, I'm
Absolutely.
not treating these gatekeepers as like they are not the determiners of your worth. They are one source of
Right.
feedback and information that you can use to build your own strategy. Does that make
Yeah.
sense as like a
It
very
totally
long
makes
word
sense.
salad
And
of
I'm
how
not
I would
saying
think through that?
like my inner 12-year-old that just likes dinosaurs and wants to just play all day, that's where it comes from. Like
Yeah.
I want to just like be myself, even though
Hmm.
I can be professional. It's not like I'm just gonna like, "What's up,
Of
agent?
course.
Hey, buy my
Yeah.
book already. What are you even
Right.
doing right now? I don't understand. Like, get this."
Well,
I
and
I like to
you were
mix
citing
humor,
the
but yeah, professionalism
I'm
goes a long way. Go ahead.
yes. I'm so sorry I was talking in there, but like you were citing the query letter, which I think is a very specific receptacle of frustration because you do, like you were pointing out, have to hit these sort of formula points of like, here is my genre, here's my plot propulsive description, here are my 3 comps, here's why I'm selecting you as an agent. Like those are all prongs you do need to hit in the letter to establish a
Mhm.
measure of credibility with the agent. But they also want to read your voice. They don't want to read a whole pile of like personality-less
Right.
AI drivel. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to split that difference. Just as you were saying, Angela, it's really hard to both hit that formula point and hit the voice point.
Yeah, and I think that's the feedback I got was like I was putting a little bit more of my voice in. It was like, no, it came back with just like red, yellow, highlighted, and like X through this and don't do this. And I was like, this is too hard.
Interesting.
I know. So
This is too
I'm not
hard.
saying that I should keep trying, but part of me is I think there's that constant self-doubt. It's like I'm never gonna get picked up anyway. And I don't know why that monster lives in my head, and I know it lives in other authors' heads, but just to hit the publish button is like everything because you're putting
Yeah.
yourself out there. So then putting myself out there in this other way to know I might be rejected. I'm like,
It's
yeah,
just
I
a
get that.
season, though.
But it is just a
true.
season. That's the thing.
It's
It is
just a
just a
season.
season. Yeah.
Mm.
And
I
I
love
think we
that.
can also reframe, like I was already talking about this a little bit before in terms of like we're not looking at these people as the be all end all of like our personal worth.
Yeah.
we're looking at them as sources of information. Like that is the essential reframe that I
great way to
try to
put it.
place upon rejection. Rejection is a source of information. It is not a referendum on your worth. So I think that can lower the stakes a little bit too sometimes.
Yeah. I think too, if you have a plan of if it
Yes.
doesn't go forward,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel pretty comfortable, because it's not going to make or break the book for me. And
Right.
then I also think there's other ways of going about pitching too, because some authors I've noticed recently selling their IP in pitches for
Hmm.
already successful books, and they're repackaging them and new publishing under
Interesting.
other publishers, and now they have translations rights with other agents in other countries. And
Hmm.
I think there's just this huge world that really research what you want to do to figure out your plan, because I think a lot of us write the end, and I remember in my early days, okay, like
Yeah.
it's just
I'm
like
ready now. Yeah.
I'm ready now. And now I've gotten to the point in my life and my own maturity of my own professional life outside of writing that patience, we say patience, but it really is a virtue of holding on to knowing what my marketing plan is too. So I did something this year where I was like, okay, I'm going to write these short stories in a series, because I know how I devour romance and how my ideal reader will do this. And I sat on it for 6 months, which was a killer, because I wrote them in the summer before I started launching them every 30 days. So I think too, if you really pull back and think about your total plan, it really helps to make you feel a bit more secure, because you are secure. You now have a plan versus just writing the end, which is tough.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that that comes back to the security of I'll take care of myself. I've got my own back. I have a plan. Like that's what I have a plan says to
Yeah.
me.
So I have a question. So when you think about a truly standout pitch, one that immediately captures like attention, what are the common elements in that? And then on the flip side, what do writers most often overlook?
Oof. Okay. I can and do often literally give 30-minute lectures on this, so I will try to keep this super brief. Okay. A couple points that I think people don't always think about. Number one, honestly, the most important part of a pitch is the email subject line. Like 99% of pitches are sent by
Really?
email. Because that's
Mm.
what determines whether someone opens your email and where they categorize your email in their day. Like if you're sending it to a busy gatekeeper, like an editor or an agent, usually they have an hour or two a day, a say, or a week that they're going to categorize for reading new
Right.
material, right? I am never advocating for just like lewd clickbait, but I do think it's more important for the subject of an email to be something clickable and attention getting and I want to open this than it is for it to like definitely be the final title or headline for something. So I do think the subject line is deceptively
Interesting.
important. I spend a lot of time encouraging people to do networking too, and like to pitch people in their network and to drop that really is like the first thing in the email. Sometimes it's even in the subject line from friend of Cassie's, a pitch about whitewater rafting or whatever, right? Have I ever been whitewater rafting in my life? No, I have not. But I think, again, that gives people a quick snapshot of like, who the fuck is this person? Are they credible? Where are they coming from? Why are they contacting me? Like a contact
Right.
and a very clickable email subject can accomplish that in literally 10 words or less. So I think starting there tends to put a pitch in a strong position. Then I think we get back to some of the things that are tricky about querying too, which is you want to hit a couple formula points. You want to mention what kind of piece this is. It's just a reported feature. Is this a short story? Whatever. You want to mention
Right.
a word count so they know how long it is, but you also want to showcase some style, right? And like you want
Right.
you want the reader of the email to be able to hear the voice. I think of a pitch, I think of any story really in any genre as an argument, right? It's presenting a perspective on the world. I think of a pitch as the argument for that argument. Why does this need to exist in the world? And I think I have a friend named Emily Best, who's the CEO of a film crowdfunding enterprise called Seed and Spark. And she says, which I quote in the book, every pitch has to answer why this, why now, why me, and why do I need you involved. That can be done in 300 words or less. You have to have some skill and probably a couple drafts to do that in 300 words or less.
Yeah.
But I think that's what most pitches ultimately boil down
That's
to.
a little daunting. Why do I need you?
It's totally daunting. It's totally daunting. Yes, exactly.
Well, because
I think you're great. I have a huge
Yeah.
brain crush on you, and I would love to be like you. But like
that's
in a more
tough.
sophisticated professional way than that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I
that's
was like,
tough.
actually, could I say that? That makes it, that actually simplifies it for me. I'm like, okay, I can wrap my head around that, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why pitching to me is way more teachable than like the craft of writing. Like there are actually some very like formulaic bullet points to hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
So for you, what is rewarding about you, you doing this? Like, why are you doing this? What do you get out of teaching it? Is it just
That's really
like
interesting.
seeing like people start from A and get to Z and get, an agent? And how often does that really happen? Because we're over here in the self-publishing world. It's kind of like we see people go up to the big dance, like we're in minor leagues. And
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, they're gone. Ring the bell. Someone's out.
I just heard like a cowbell in my head for some reason.
Yes.
You know, I
Oh,
really think
yeah,
it happens
Maggie went
more
on.
often. I think it happens more often than you think, Angela. I mean, for a second, I thought you were going to ask the question, why are you rewarding, Laura? Like, what's rewarding about knowing you? And I don't have an answer to that. But what is
Oh, well, we
rewarding about
already
doing
solved
this?
that mystery like 30 minutes ago, but okay.
There's a meta layer to this work that is actually like the mandate for why I do it. So I think that all of pitching comes back to confidence. And I think that a lot of confidence comes back to whose performances of confidence our culture tends to reward. You guys seem
Oh,
pretty smart.
interesting.
Would you like to take just a blind crack at the dark at which gender do you think maybe tends to act with more confidence? Does anybody have a guess about just like a blind
males.
stab in the dark? Yeah, probably
Yeah,
right. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So since I've been teaching this class, even before I was teaching this work at Stanford, I was teaching this work online. And I would say all the way through teaching this material in like a whole bunch of different forums now, probably 80 to 90% of my students have been assigned female at birth. And I think that that has a lot to do with how women are socialized, how women and non-binary femme-presenting people are socialized. I think that we are usually likelier to think that we're behind, to think that we need help, right? To think that we might not have sort of insider information that other people gatekeep. There's a self-questioning and a self-doubt that is socialized into women that I think rubs up against this material in some really interesting ways. Also, there's definitely a racial element to this. Like there have been a majority minority students in my class since I've been teaching this class at Stanford. So I think that it becomes really important to talk about this meta layer of like, what are the assumptions that we are socialized to make about ourselves? And for a lot of women, they're responding to a very conditioned understanding of the world of like, if I put myself out there like too loudly or too aggressively or too assertively or in a way that threatens someone, not only will I not be responded to in the rewarding way that I want, I might very likely be punished for that. You know, like every woman I know can name some example of a time that they were punished for an act of confidence. All of this is really fucking interesting to me, right? And so
Right.
this meta, right? Like, and my departmental home at Stanford is in feminist and gender studies. So like really this began as an examination of like how confidence is gendered and racinated and how that informs who puts themselves out there for what opportunities. I continue to be fascinated by that. And I also believe at a very fundamental level, there's like this old adage that history is written by the victorious, right? History is written by the winners. I also think on the most like literal level, history is written by the published, right? And if we look at like, you know, who has published the most books over the arc of history, it is certainly mostly white men. So really like my high level motive for this is I hate it when brilliant people are less confident about themselves that they deserve to be. You know, I hate hearing women downplay their own accomplishments, for example. But then the end game of all of this is I want to read those fucking books. Like, I want to read the books by people of all these different like experiences and background levels, right? Like, I don't want to read books by only straight white dead men for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Right.
sort of like the tip to tail pipeline of my Mad Cat mission here.
Mad Cat mission. I think that should be a t-shirt. That
Okay.
is a brilliant phrase.
Merch. Let's
right
get the
there.
merch going. Yes.
It's tough because I think too that as a female, depending on your stage of life too, we have so many responsibilities that are personally ingrained in who we are. And we tend to do the things for ourselves last.
Oof!
I'm in my fifth. I'm
Say
in my
it louder.
50s.
Mm-hmm.
So, my children are grown and flown and, all these things. And now I'm like, it's me time. So I get it. I totally get it. But I also feel like I don't think I would have been in the space and the confidence in my 30s to do the things I'm doing now, nor have the experience of life. Especially since my book that I'm pitching is about equality in corporate America in a fun rom-com way, because I've experienced a lot of it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I just kind of go, too, as females, I think it's interesting because my 25-year-old who's female, and we've raised her to be okay with the arts and the things that she loved to do. I've learned so much from her to be able to be kind of more commanding in my own presence of what I want, what I'll accept, what the boundaries are. That terminology was not available to Generation X. There weren't boundaries for us. We were told what we could and couldn't do and what those boundaries are. And now it feels like, we're stepping on the glass ceiling. We've been cracking it for a while. But I also think that our younger generation is pushing us through, which I really love.
Could not agree more.
So.
And I have exactly this reverence for Gen Z that you just named. Like, I think that those young people have simply refused to accept so many things that our generation and older, like, had to swallow or chose to swallow or some combination of the two. And no one will ever besmirch Gen Z on my watch. I love them.
I feel like it's your friend. Why, and why you? I think that's what this generation is constantly questioning, right?
Yes,
so
yes. I agree.
It's a good
and
conversation.
Why shouldn't they? The bottom has fallen out of like every system. They're looking at a burning planet, a government that is currently shut down, fascism encroaching. Why on earth should they just blithely accept the status quo? Like, I love their indignation so much. I am here for it.
I guess my mom's way of because I told you so doesn't work anymore.
No,
do you remember those days, Angela?
It doesn't.
Did you have that?
Oh God.
Well,
and my kids are.
We're making this rule, and we don't owe you an explanation. But that was how they were raised. Was trickling down from those generations of, and even it's culturally where you were. I mean, in my Italian household, you didn't ask questions.
I had one of those too. Yes. No. Are you kidding? Like, who do you think you are? Yes. Yeah. No. Very patriarchal values in that way. And it really, my kids are younger than what you were just describing, Cassie. But even I have a very spicy 7-year-old. And sometimes I'll be trying to tell him what to do. And he'll be like, but Mama, you're always telling me to listen to my body. And that's not what my body is telling me. And I'm like, oh my God, I did tell you that. Oh my God, you little shit.
And it comes back to haunt you sometimes.
It comes back to haunt you. Yes, it sure does. But I also, I'm sure like you, I don't want to raise children who are just blindly compliant to whoever is telling them a thing the loudest, So that is the tax that we end up having to pay for that, which I do think is worth it in the long run. Well, I've had to tell
my youngest daughter, because she's opened my eyes to a lot of things and we disagree on a lot of things. And I'm like, it's okay for us to disagree.
Yes.
Which I think is
huge.
A culture we have a hard time with.
Yes.
But I also have come back to say, I don't have the words right now. I need to think about what you've said. Otherwise, I'm going to just be very reactive and I don't want to be.
The sacred pause.
It's important.
Yes,
because
it's so important.
I may not have it in like 10 minutes. It may take me a full day to like figure out exactly how I feel about something. And I think too, the idea that you should know exactly your stance on something and how you feel on something immediately is something that is really not
It doesn't
true.
always work like that. No.
And sometimes you'll regret what you've said because you didn't have the opportunity to sit with it for a minute. I think that way about our books too. Like, sit with it,
The sacred
re-review
pause.
it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I feel that way now. Now, when I had my very first book, I could not wait to hit publish. Now I tend to wait. And I have things sitting, like my stories are written, some of them for this summer already. So I kind of love that I'm in a place to do that. But there are cases where I'm like, oh crap, I need to write a magnet and I need to write it this weekend. I'm still in the hustle phase, but I think as an indie, you will always be hustling.
I don't think it's even just indies who will always be. I think we will all always be. I don't know a
I think
creative
it's how
of
much
any
you love
fame or
it.
success level who is not always hustling. I think that is the
agreed.
agreement. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
that can be a
hustle.
hard pill to swallow, but like I don't think the hustle ever actually stops. And I think that's another important thing to make explicit.
Yeah.
Well, Cassie takes hustling to a level that I'm like, I don't even know if when they invented this word, if that's what they meant, but you need to slow down, girl. But she just like produces and it's so great. And sometimes I'm like, just have Cassie's confidence because it always takes like my first book. I put it through so many rounds of editing. It cost way too much to produce. I had a coach. I had every level of like editing and eyes and everything. And right as I was about to publish, I was like, you know what? I'm thinking chapter 2 is the problem. I'm going to go. And my coach was like, Angela, you have stage fright. It's your first book. Just publish the damn thing. Get it out. Get it off your desk. Get some feedback, good or bad. Just start. And it took me forever. And then when I published my second book, it felt a little bit better. The first romance, I was like, okay, well, this is what I think is romantic. Is anyone else going to like it? And getting some reviews. And each time my skin gets thicker and I have more confidence than I used to. But it's more about me feeling like, where do I fit in? Because my sci-fi series was older women superheroes using hot flashes as fireballs. We get our powers. We're older. It's dealing with menopause. If you're a superhero, how does that work? And what does that look like? Saving the day.
Chaotic.
I love that.
Love it.
Menopause.
Hell yeah.
It's put in a way that's like Avenger-ish, and of course the sci-fi bros hated it. And, but my first romance, I love telling stories about older people who have to overcome bullshit to fall in love because I don't think it's not how I felt in the 20s where I was like, I love everyone. Okay.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yes.
So he totally broke my heart and cheated on me and did terrible things. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't have, but writing romance as being an almost 50-year-old, I love that they have to like grow and change to be together. It's not just instant.
Sure.
So I appreciate that in my toolbox, but it still is like is anyone going to read this? Every time I'm about to publish this Western romance, military, reverse Grump Sunshine, fish out of water, like I poured my soul into this and my real experience is about living in Colorado and hating the wilderness. Everyone thinks when you live here, you're just like, oh my God, mountains. And I'm like, you can keep it. I don't like it. I grew up on the side of a mountain. I hated it when I was a kid, so I'm pouring this in and then I'm about to get these reviews and it's like, God, is anyone going to like this? Is anyone going to read this? And I think that's sometimes what holds me back. And that's one of my last questions though. I was told by an agent that if you've self-published anything, no agent will touch you. Like,
really?
Yeah. That happened.
I have not heard that put
because I said
in
if
that
I've
way.
published one book, will they pick up any future books? And they're like, nope. They want to make sure. Yeah. So I don't know. Is that
I think it depends on the genre and your plan. So, for example, I'm going at it of yes, I write short romance. However, this is a novel. I'm looking for support from a novel perspective, not short romance. And then I've also seen so many people get picked up by agents and publishers that they're redoing their IP completely. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
know.
I haven't heard it put as baldly as you just like if you have ever
Yeah.
self-published that a no agent will ever touch you. I've certainly gotten the question of like, can I take a self-published book to a commercial publisher? And like, no, you can't republish
Yeah.
unless the book has been like runaway successful and they have like a financial incentive to do that. But I think that's more sweeping that I would be comfortable being to just say like no agent will ever touch someone who has ever self-published anything. Like if I were an agent and I saw someone who had crafted a very savvy self-publishing strategy and produced good work, like I would probably want to read that person's next book, you know? Like I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
those kinds of grand sweeping cancellations, you know?
Yeah. And the other old, you know, maybe it's a myth, maybe it is real. Before, you didn't have to have a social media following. Now, if they want to pick you up, you've got to have huge TikTok, huge Instagram, huge social media that's already built in marketing. Do you think
I would
that also?
I would actually push back against that too. I
Okay.
certainly gatekeepers love a large following. Like there's no disputing that.
Yeah.
I have never had more than 5,000 followers on any platform. But at this point I've had a lot of platforms. I think that what we're talking about in that kind of assessment is platform, particularly for nonfiction. Yeah, the gatekeepers like
Mhm.
it if you have a platform. That does not automatically translate to you have to have a six-figure TikTok following. A platform can come in a whole lot of different forms. I also
Right.
think that again, I think it benefits any creative to have some sort of public facing social media channel, one or several, like great idea. But I also think that there are aspects of how you communicate with the world that are important beyond just follower counts. Like, do you conduct
Right.
yourself with civility and integrity? Do people see you punching down in gross ways all the time? Those are certainly
Yeah.
things that are going to turn gatekeepers off. But like, are you part of any thriving, mutually supportive communities? Do I constantly see you like uplifting other authors and being like a good art friend? Those are probably things that gatekeepers are going to notice too. So I,
Right.
I I know that follower counts for me too, can generate a lot of anxiety, but I refuse to believe that that's the only asset of having a public platform that matters.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
good.
so we're going to wrap up, but as we're winding down 2025 going into 2026,
Thank
for those
God, right?
people, yeah,
We've almost survived
well, thanks.
2025. We're close. Yes.
Where what words, maybe some inspiration, people who are looking at their 2026 wondering if they should just pull the plug, try to ring that bell and make their pitches. What are some just like advice if someone was like, "Should I do this?"
Mm,
Mhm.
such a good question. Over and over again, the farther I get in my life as a creative, I think that the answer never boils down to this is definitely the way you should go, and this is the one right and legitimate
Right.
way. But I do think that the real measure of a creative, for me at least, boils down to one thing, which is what I call the return. And I think the return is just
Mm.
we've talked so much in this conversation about like it takes years to do this shit, right? Like to build the
Mhm.
skills to write a book, to build the network to
Yeah.
release it, to go through the work of releasing it. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes faith. I think when we are just like our little child artist selves who want to play, I think that the most
Mhm.
important determinant to a project or a creative success is just like, do you have the guts to keep returning to a project, to keep believing in it, even if you haven't
Mhm.
touched it for 6 months
Yeah.
or 2 years, even if you just got a devastating rejection, even if the plan A just did
Yeah.
not like just collapse like toilet paper in your fingers, do you have the guts and the faith to just keep coming back to that project and keep being the one person who's not going to stop believing in it? That's what I call the return. And I really think that that has so much to do with the self sustenance and patience that we've been talking about that
I love
produces
that.
books that take years to do, right? It's really
Yeah.
hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, but we're here and we're doing it.
But here we
Listeners,
are, the
who are
return.
you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
You're here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much. This was an amazing conversation. I never wanted it to end
This has
secretly.
been
I
such
know.
a
I was like,
pleasure.
oh, it's
Can we
almost
come over? Like, how is this done?
Can we pop a bottle of wine? I wish I didn't have to go pick up these kids. I know. Yeah. Let me call you when my kids are flown and grown. Then we'll really have a party
Oh
and a
my gosh.
conversation. You
Well,
know?
look out. Okay,
Woof.
one last quick question.
Hit me.
From our tales. Tell me about your first car.
my
Oh
first car.
my God. Okay. Is Cassie going first or am I going first?
You can guess first. Let's go guess.
Wait, okay, so I have to tell you about my first car, or I have to guess what
Mhm.
Angela's first car was?
No, tell me about your first
Okay.
car. The very first car you had.
My first car was a 1991 Isuzu Trooper, which I
Oh.
drove somewhere in the vicinity. It was just a monster of an SUV. Like, I grew up in an area where everybody drove pickup trucks or SUVs. Like, there were no compact cars. And what I remember most about that car, which I started driving, I guess, when I was 16, was my best friend, the one who played the French horn. Shout out to Laurel and her mellophone. She was great at marching. Laurel would have been right at home in this conversation. She drove a very similar 1987 GMC Jimmy, and we used to like just like in a very loving way, just rear end each other just to like, say hello, like a little kiss, with these
Hi,
giant
I'm here.
SUVs that you just like could not damage.
Today's cars would fall apart.
In fact, it might have been true in our suburban upbringing that there was a dark cul-de-sac that she and I both used as a makeout spot. And sometimes, you'd pull up to the makeup spot and the other car would already be there. So you just love
Oh
tap.
my.
Yeah, that's the
I love
Isuzu.
it.
That's
Hello,
the
I know
Isuzu
where you
Trooper.
are.
Hello, it's
That's
me.
amazing.
Are you done yet? Yeah.
I love it.
My curfew's
Mine-
11. Yeah.
Mine was called the Golden Nugget Gold
yeah.
Subaru 2-door hatchback. And I thought it was so I was like, this is power. This is what power looks like.
Yes. This is
Right?
freedom.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
autonomy.
It always broke down. Brakes failed when I was driving. I was driving home from my boyfriend's house across town and the brakes failed. And this is Colorado. Everything's hills. Everything is not an easy, you can't get anywhere by climbing a tree to get out of somewhere. So that was interesting. The windshield wipers failed in a torrential downpour. And I was like, okay. So my friend and I are in the car and we're like, okay, let's take off our belts and we tied the belts to the wipers, and she would pull hers and I one, and she would pull one way and I would pull the other while I'm driving 70 down the
Wow.
highway. Yeah.
These are
we were-
survival
It
strategies.
was like a MacGyver car, but you had to figure out how to survive getting through it. So Golden Nugget, I love you. You're the best. All right. Cassie?
Oh my gosh. So I can't remember the year. It was either a 1983 or 86, but it was a Honda Prelude and it was copper.
Nice.
And it had well over 150,000 miles on it.
Had
I
to.
bought
You
it.
all did.
And this was 89, 90 when I got this car. And it was a stick shift because my dad and my mom were like, you need to know how to drive a stick shift.
Oh, yeah.
And so, which really proved awesome later in my life because
Oh,
my
yeah.
husband never drove one. And when we were in Germany, I was just all over
That's
the place.
power.
It was great. But the best part about this car that I remember were that the seats were all coming apart, which happened in the older cars. And I had that sheepskin stuff that was furry that was over the seats.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
It was
Hell yeah.
ridiculous and retaining all the dirt, but I loved it because it was so soft.
That's so
Oh
funny.
my
So,
God.
yeah, I had
Those
the
sense
copper car.
memories. The little sense memories.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Laura, and thank you
What a
everyone else for
pleasure.
listening today. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. Next week, we're talking with Dr. Jody Blinko and recording a very special episode, number 50. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh. We grow up so fast. Anyway, until then, keep writing, keep doing. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.